Good day, students. I will be doing this scenario or this example of myself, which is on the markup percentage on the cost price. That means, how do you calculate the markup price when you are given a markup percentage on the cost price? Also taking into account the VAT implications. Then I have my own example here with the assumption. And the assumption is that we are given a cost price of 100 Rand and we are given a markup percentage which is 20% on the cost price. And also assume that there is 14% VAT implication that must be taken into consideration. So now we are required, or I require that we calculate the markup price. Remember, the markup price is the price after the markup percentage was added on the cost price, and also after VAT was also added on the cost price or on the selling price of the product. Then I will do the reversal in terms of calculating the cost price backwards after we have already calculated the markup percentage and also calculated the VAT and added all the two. Then now we have to do what we are required to do. Then in the requirement is we have to calculate our markup. We first have to start with the selling price, because a markup amount or markup price is after markup percentage was added on the cost price and after VAT was added on the cost price, as I mentioned below. So now we first have to start calculating the selling price. And in calculating our selling price, which can be abbreviated as SP, we need to know that our selling price is equal to cost price plus markup percentage plus markup percentage. And whenever the markup is on the cost price, or whenever the markup is on the cost price, you must know that the cost price is equal to 100%. Therefore, now the cost price will be 100%. Then that means we have to add 20%. Therefore, now it means selling price will be equal to cost price plus markup percentage. Whenever the markup percentage is on the cost price, that means cost price will be 100%. There we have 100%. Then after, if we add the markup percentage of 20%, this will give us the selling price. That means the selling price is equal to cost price. The selling price is equal to cost price plus markup percentage is equal to cost price plus markup percentage. That will be the selling price. And in this case, that will mean the cost price, which is 100%, we add the markup percentage in this case, which is 20%. Therefore, now the selling price will be 120%. That means our selling price will be an amount of 120%. And if this is 120%, therefore now we can be able to calculate our selling price. Remember, 120% can be converted into a decimal, which is equal to 120 divided by 100. I always prefer this approach. Therefore, now if we say 120 divided by 100, this will give us the decimal of 120%, and that will be 1.2. Therefore, now that means our selling price will be equal to cost price of 100 Rand times that by 1.2. Then if we multiply that by 1.2, it will give us 120 Rand as the selling price. However, if you wanted, you could have said that selling price will be equal to the cost price of 100 Rand times by 20%. And if you multiply this by 20%, you'll get 20 Rand. And that 20 Rand will be the markup amount, or the marked up price, or the markup amount. Then after you say selling price will be equal to cost price of 100 Rand, then you add 20 Rand, then this will give you the same 120 Rand. But I always prefer to multiply this by 1.2 so that when I do the reversal, it becomes very, very, very easy. Therefore, now we do have the selling price, which our selling price is 120 Rand. And we know that in order to get to that 120, you just say cost times by 1.2. That means if the markup percentage was 50%, then we'll have to say times that by 1.5. So now in this case, we can go to the next stage where we calculate the markup price. Remember, markup price is the selling price plus VAT. But selling price is equal to cost price plus markup percentage. So now we are calculating the marked price. We are calculating what is called the marked price. And the marked price is equal to selling price plus VAT. Is equal to selling price plus VAT. And selling price is equal to 100% before you add VAT. Then we add 14% of VAT. Therefore now that will mean the total of the marked price will be 114%. It will be 114%. And 114% in a decimal is the same as 114 divided by 100. And this gives us 1.14. That means if we want, we can straightly say that our marked up price is equal to 120 rand, or which is equal to selling price, times that by 1.14. That will be our marked price. And we know that our selling price is equal to 120 rand, times that by 1.14, and that will give us the marked up price as an amount of 1.14 times that by 120, and this will give us 136 rand 80 cents. So now this is our marked up price. And please take note of this flow, which is very, very important, because initially we said that in order for us to get to the selling price, that means to get to the marked price, we would have said NP. Remember that MP is for the marked price. MP, marked up price. MP is equal to cost price times that by 1.2, which was the markup, then times that by 1.14, then that will give us the markup price of 136.80. Let me show you how did we get to that amount. Markup price is equal to cost price times by 1.2, which is the markup percentage, times that by VAT. Remember, cost price was 100 rand, and we said in the cost price times that by 1.2, and it gave us an amount of 120. Therefore now we take the 120, which is the selling price, 120, we times that by 1.14, and this will give us the final marked price as 136 rand 80 cents. So now from that 136 rand 80 cents, we know that it was cost price times by 1.2 times by 1.14, and that will give us the final marked price of 136.80. And I'm emphasizing this because it's very important when you do the reversal, because when you do the reversal, you first have to remove what you have added last. That means to go to the selling price, we need to remove 1.14, and to go to the cost price, we need to remove 1.2. That will give us the cost price before everything was added or taken into consideration. So now we have allocated all of this, and take note again of the fact that selling price becomes 100% before you add VAT. Selling price becomes 100% before you add VAT. So now that means when we are looking for the selling price from a marked up amount, then we must multiply by 100%, we divide that by 114. So now let me show you the reversal part of this entry. So now to calculate the cost price, reversal, calculation of the cost price, calculate the cost price, calculate the cost price in reverse. So now when we calculate the cost price in reverse, we'll say our cost price will be equal to 136.80, and this 136.80 we remove What do we remove first? We first have to remove the VAT, which is 1.14. And mathematically, to reverse multiplication, you must divide. So now we just have to say divide by 1.14. Then if you divide that by 1.14, it will give you 120 of the selling price. Then the selling price, we have to remove 1.12. And to remove that, we have to divide that by 1.2. And this will give us straight the 100 rand of the cost price. So it becomes very easy when you do the reversal if you have used the decimal method. But if you not use the decimal method, you can still use the multiplication of the percentage. So now we can still do that same method where we say we calculate our selling price first, and we say our selling price will be 136.80, and we multiply this by 100. We divide this by 114. Why are we doing this? It is because our selling price is 100%. Our selling price is, I mentioned that our selling price is 100%, and we added VAT, and therefore now the marked price is 114%. That means this amount that we are looking at, this marked price, it is 114%. So now we are looking for the selling price, and the selling price is 100%, and this is out of an amount that is 114%. That is why now we have the right to just multiply our marked price by 100. We divide by 114, and this will give us straight the selling price of 120 rand. Let us check that times by 100, and we divide this by 114, and this gives us straight exactly 120 rand. So now however way you do it, it does not matter. Then after, you can say cost price is equal to the selling price of 120, and we say times that. Remember, I said cost price is 100% and selling price is 120%, because we said in the cost price we added the markup percentage. We said cost price was 100%, here was the cost price, we added 20%. Therefore now that gave us the selling price, and the selling price was 120 rand, which was 120%, and that became 120 in terms of rands. So now our selling price is 120% because we added the markup of 20%. However, we are looking for the cost price, which is 100%, out of the selling price, that is out of 120%, which is 120 rands at the same time. So now hence in this case we can say we are looking for the cost price. We times our selling price by 100, we divide that by 120, and this will give us exactly the same cost price of the 100 rand that we had in the beginning as the cost price of 100 rands. So now what is very important is for you to know how to calculate things in reverse. At the same time, remember, you could have calculated the selling price differently. If you wanted in the selling price perspective, again, you could have said, in terms of calculating the selling price, you could have said VAT is equal to 136.80, because this is the marked price and VAT was included here. So now if we remove VAT in this amount, we'll get to the selling price, which is selling price before VAT was taken into account. That means you can just say times by 14 over 114, because we are looking for 14% in an amount that is out of 114%, and this will give us VAT of 16 rand 80 cents. This will give us VAT of 16 rand 80 cents, which is 136.80 times by 14 divided by 114, and this will give us 16 rand 30 cents. So now this is how we will calculate this VAT amount. So now it will be 16 rand 80 cents, and if we do that, we can then say 136 rand 80 cents minus 16 rand 80 cents. Therefore now this will give us the same 136.80 minus 16 rand 80. This will give us the same selling price of 120. So now however way you do it, it does not matter. at the end you still get to the same selling price, which is 120 rand. Even if you decide to just divide, and if you divide, that will still be the very best approach, because if you divide where you get this 120, this will be the same selling price. So now however you do it, guys, it does not matter. Again, let me show you how you can divide. You could have said selling price is equal to 136.80 divided by 1.14, and this could have given you the same 120, where you say 136.80 divided by 1.14, and this will give you straight the same 120 rand. How you reverse backwards? Because our selling price, we know that it was we added from the selling price the 14% in order to get to the marked price. So now we have the right to divide by 1.14 to go backwards. We have the right to divide by 1.14 to go backwards. So now, as I have shown you in this table, that we set cost price plus or times that by 1.2, and we times that by 1.14. So now if we reverse, we just say divide that by 1.14. That means, as it is shown here at the bottom, that if you just say divide by 1.14, that means you are eliminating that amount of VAT. You are eliminating the VAT, you'll get to the selling price before VAT was taken into account. Hence, if we say divide by 1.14, it will give us 120, and 120 is the selling price. Then to get to the cost price, it will be 120 divided by 1.2. That means we are eliminating that 1.2, and that will give us the cost price of 100 rands. So now these are the different ways in which you can calculate amounts reverse, or you can calculate amounts going forward. So now I have shown you how you can do this calculation, and one that I still have to show you is the calculation of the amount of VAT, where you can use the amount of VAT to get to the marked price. At the same time, if you want to calculate this marked price, which is this MP, you could have also said that the selling price is 120, and we know that selling price is before VAT was added. Then after we say times by 14%, and if we multiply this by 14%, it will give us 16 rand 80 cents, and that 16 rand 80 cents is the amount of VAT separately. Therefore, now if this is VAT, it means you can say our marked price is equal to 120 plus VAT, of which our VAT is 16 rand 80 cents. Therefore, now this will give us the marked up price, which is 120 plus 16 rand 80 cents. Then this will give us the same 136 rand 80 cents. So now, however you do it, guys, it does not matter. What is important is to know how to calculate the markup price, how to calculate the selling price, and how to calculate the VAT in the case where the markup percentage is on the cost price. That is the very important emphasis. So now this is the first part of the exercise. The second part, which is example number 2. Example number 2 is when the markup percentage is on the selling price. How do you deal with that? Remember, in the previous one, I made mention I gave your attention to the fact that if the markup percentage is on the cost price, then cost price is equal to 100%. Don't forget, I said cost price is equal to 100%. That means the selling price is equal to cost price plus markup percentage. I said the selling price is equal to cost price plus markup percentage. And we said cost price being 100% plus 20%, that will give us 120%. And that will be 1.2 as a decimal. Therefore, now we can say cost price times by 1.2, that will give us the selling price, and we have shown you all the calculation, or I have shown you all the calculation as I was explaining everything to you. But I just want to bring your attention back to the cost price before I start the selling price, so that you can be able to identify the similarities or the differences between the two methods, when the markup percentage is on cost price and when the markup percentage is also on the selling price. In this case, we have the markup percentage that is on the selling price. Therefore, now it means if the markup percentage is on the selling price, then cost price is equal to 100% minus markup percentage, is equal to 100% minus markup percentage. That will be the cost price. So now that means in this case, we have the scenario which is the same, where the cost price is equal to 100 rand and the markup percentage is 20% on the selling price, and VAT still remain constant at 14%. Then now we are doing the same calculation to calculate the marked up price and to do the reversal of the same calculation where we go backwards to determine the cost price before everything was added. So now that means our cost price will be 100% minus 20%, because our markup percentage, which is on selling price, is 20%. Therefore now we minus our 20%. Therefore now that means it will be 80%. Therefore now this will be 80%. That means cost price will be 80% in this case, because our selling price is, our markup percentage is 20% on the selling price. So now that means selling price will be equal to 100%. That means selling price equals 100%. All the times keep this in your mind, that whenever the markup percentage is on the selling price is equal to 100%, but cost price is equal to 100% minus the markup percentage. So now that will be the cost price. Therefore now in this case, our cost price will be 80%. So now in this case, if we are looking for the selling price, we know that the selling price is equal to 100%. And we are looking for a selling price out of the cost price of 100 rand, but which is 80%, because we know that cost price is equal to 80%. So now let us calculate the selling price. Let us calculate the selling price first. Our selling price will be cost of 100 rand times by 100 divided by 80. We are looking for the selling price. Remember, selling price is 100% whenever the markup percentage is on the cost price. I did emphasize that. So now that is why we multiply that by 100, because we always multiply by what we are looking for and we divide by what it is. And what it is that the cost price is equal to 80%. That is why we divide by 80, because the cost price is 80%. So now in this case, it will mean that we will get to our selling price. Therefore now our selling price will be 100 rand times by 100 divided by 80, and this will give us 125 rands. So now this will be our selling price. And remember, the minute you get to that selling price, or the minute you get to the selling price of 125, and now we have to calculate our marked up price. Before you calculate your marked up price, you must know that your selling price becomes 100%. You must know that before you add VAT, then selling price becomes 100%. Then now in this case, we are calculating the marked up price. We are calculating the marked up price. That means the price after VAT was added into account. Marked up price. And our marked up price is selling price plus VAT in simple terms. And we know that our selling price is equal to 100% all the times. This will never change. And plus our VAT is equal to 14%. Therefore now if we add our VAT to 14%, it will mean that this will give us 114%. That means our marked up amount, or our marked up price, will always be 114%. So now that means we have to say we'll use the first method. Our selling price is 125. Here is the selling price of 125. We say times that by 14%, and if we multiply that by 14%, it will give us an amount of VAT only. 125 times by 14%, this will give us 17 rand 50 cents. 17 rand 50, this is the amount of VAT. This is the amount of VAT. This is VAT amount. Then after we say our selling price is 125 plus 17 rand 50 cents. So now this 17 rand 50 cents is the amount of VAT. Therefore now we say plus 125, this will give us 142 rand 50 cents. This is what we were required to do. Our marked up price is equal to 142 rand 50 cents. Now at the same time, as I said to you that we have a marked up price which is 114%. Why? Because we added 14% to selling price which was 100%. That means that our decimal will be 1.14. I hope now you know what does that mean. That means it's 114 divided by 100. Therefore now that will be 1.14. Meaning our marked up price could also have been calculated by saying selling price times that by 1.14. Therefore now it will be selling price of 125 times that by 1.14. Then this will give us the same 142 rand 50 cents. Therefore 1.14 times that by 125, this will give us the same 142 rand 50 cents. So now either way you calculate, either you use the decimals or you use the percentages where you add after, it doesn't matter. But what is important is for you to understand the theory behind. So now to take a little bit further, that means to get to the marked up price. That means to get to the marked up price, we would have said cost price times that by 100 divided by 80. Remember 100 divided by 80. Let us check what decimal will be that. 100 divided by 80. This will be 1.25. Okay. Therefore now this will be 1.25, which is that 100 divided by 80 that we used to add to our cost price. This was the 100 divided by 80. So now if this gives us 100 divided by 80, which is 1.25, it means we could have just said here, we could have just said 100 cost price times by 1.25. We could have just said times by 1.25. I always prefer the decimals. Times that by 1.25. And let us check if we get the same amount. If we say 1.25 times by cost price, this gives us the same 125. That means there we get the same 125 in a very short way. So now that tells us that in order for us to get to the marked price, we would have said cost price times that by 1.25, and this will give us selling price. Then you say selling price times that by 1.14. Remember 1.14 was that 1.14 that we multiplied with after we have added the VAT of 14%. So now that will mean this is how we got to the amount of 142 rand 50 cents. So now that means for us to reverse, we have to first eliminate individual amounts. We first have to eliminate that, and that will give us the selling price, and we have to eliminate this to get to the cost price. That means to get to the selling price from a markup amount, because this is the markup amount. This is the markup amount. If you are given the markup amount where VAT is already included, and you want to calculate or determine the selling price, that will mean your selling price will be equal to 142 rand 50 cents. We remove the last part that was added, which is VAT. We just divide that by 1.14, and this will give us the selling price, and the selling price will be 142.50 divided by 1.14, and this is the same 125. It gives us the same 125. Therefore now if we want to determine the cost price, then I will say selling price of 125, and we know that this selling price is after 1.25 was added. Therefore, now we just have to divide by 1.25, and this will give us the cost price of 100 rands. Let us check. 125 divided by 1.25, exactly we get the same cost price of 100 rands. So now this is a very perfect method that I normally prefer. However, if you wanted, you could have said, once again, you could have said, in order to get to the selling price, you could have said selling price will be equal to the amount of, or you could have first calculated VAT. Then say, okay, selling price is equal to 142.50 minus VAT. Then now we say, how do we get to VAT? We say our VAT is equal to 142 rand 50 cents times by 14 over 114. Then if you do that, this will give you the amount of VAT, which is 142.50 times by 14 divided by 114, and this will give us 17 rand 50 cents. Therefore, now we just subtract our VAT, which is 17 rand 50 cents. Here we subtract our VAT, 17 rand 50 cents. And if we do so, it will be 1750 minus 142.50, and this will be 125, which is the same 125 that we got to calculate our selling price. So now our selling price will be 125 rands. Our selling price will be 125 rands. Either way you do it, it does not matter. You'll get to the same amount. You'll get to the same amount. Therefore, now from the selling price, you just divide that by 1.25. That will give you the cost price as I have shown you above. So now this is how you can go backwards, and this is how you can go forward in terms of calculating VAT, calculating selling price, calculating market price, and also maybe calculating the cost price. So now I will bring your attention to the last part of the question. And the last part of the question, we are given the table, and this table has some missing alphabets, and we have to make sure that we complete all the missing alphabets up to the last alphabet, which is alphabet O. Then we'll do all these calculations, and we'll see how far can we go in terms of calculation. And I'm sure after this you'll get a more broader understanding on how to calculate all this selling price, cost price, VAT, and marked price. And it says here, calculate the missing figures represented by the letters of the alphabet in the following table, which represent 5 separate transactions. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, sorry, that is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 transactions that we have. So now we have to account for VAT, account for cost price, account for markup percentage, or for markup, and account for marked price. We are given the cost price, we are given a markup percentage, we are given a markup, that is the percentage, we are given selling price excluding VAT, we are given VAT, which is 14%, and we are given marked price, which is inclusive of VAT. That means after VAT was added. And under the first one, which is number 1, under number 1, we are given, under number 1, cost price of 2,000. And we are given markup percentage, which is 20% on cost price. Take note, it is on cost price. And we don't have the selling price. That is what we are looking for. Therefore, now if we are looking for the selling price, it means we can say cost price of 2,000. Selling price is equal to cost price times that by 100%, don't forget, plus markup percentage, of which markup percentage is 20%. Therefore, now that means we say our cost price will be times, if we say 100 plus 20, that will give us 120. And we know that 120 is the same as 120 divided by 100, which is equal to 1.2. So now that means in this case we can just simplify all the calculations. We just say times this by 1.2. So now we can just say multiply this by 1.2. And our cost price in this case is given as 2,000 rands. We times this by 1.2, and this will give us the amount of the selling price. 2,000 times this by 1.2, and this will give us 2,400 rands. However, if you wanted, you could have said 2,000 times by 20%. This could have given you 400. Then after you say 2,000 plus 400, this could have given you 2,400. So now that means our selling price will be 2,400 rands. And alphabet number B, we are looking for the VAT amount. Alphabet number B, we are looking for the amount of VAT. And the amount of VAT will be 2,400, and we multiply this by 14%. Just want to remove this. We have 2,400 of the selling price. Therefore, now we say our VAT will be times that by 0.14. Then if we multiply that by 0.14, it will give us VAT amount of 336 rands. So now if we are required to calculate the marked up price, it means it will be 2,400 times that by 1.14. Where is 1.14 is coming from? It's because 2,400 is the selling price, and selling price is 100%, and we add 14% on that, then this will give us 114%. And we know that 114% is 1.14, which is coming from 114 divided by 100, that gave us 1.14. So now meaning we can simply say 2,400 times by 1.14 to get straight to the marked price, which is 2,400 times by 1.14. This will give us 2,400 times by 1.14. This will give us 2,736 rand. Or else you could have simplified and say 2,400 plus 336, that will give you 2,736. So now either way you do it, it does not matter, but what is important is can you get the correct figures. Then we go to the second transaction, which will be transaction number 2. Transaction number 2, we are given the cost price of 2,000, and we are given a markup percentage of 20% of the selling price. Take note of the selling price, and we are looking for D, which is the selling price. Remember, I said that the selling price will be equal to 100%, and the cost price will be equal to 100% minus the markup percentage. So now in this case, our selling price will be equal to the cost price of 2,000. The cost price of 2,000, we multiply this by 100, because the selling price always becomes 100% whenever the markup percentage is on the selling price, and we divide this by 80. And where is the 80 coming from? It's because I said that we just say 100 minus 20%, then this will give us 80%. So now that is where the 80 is coming from. Therefore now that means our selling price will be 2,000 rands. We multiply this by 100 and we divide by 80, and this will give us 2,500 rands. This will give us 2,500 rands. This will give us 2,500 rands. So now 2.5, we are still looking for another alphabet, which is alphabet number E. That means our VAT. So now selling price times by 14% will give us VAT. Selling price times by 14 divided by 100, it will give us VAT of 350. So now our VAT will be 350 rands. Remember, you can just say to get to the marked price, which is alphabet number F, you can just simply say 350 plus 2,500. That means selling price plus VAT will give us 2,850. That is the very simple approach. But the very strategic one that I always like is to say selling price of 2,500 times by 1.14. Then this will give us straight 2,850. When you are not required to calculate VAT, then you can shoot straight to the last amount of 2,850, which is 2,500 times by 1.14, just adding VAT 2,850 straight as it is. I always prefer that approach, and I honestly like. Then the next one now will be the calculation of, the next one will be, let me just replace these figures. This is 2,400, just remove everything. 336, this will be 2,736 rands, and this is 2,850, and this is 350, and this is 2,500. Sorry to delete. Then now we are going to the third entry. We are going to the third entry, and the third entry is also a similar story, which is number 3. Number 2, that was number 1. Number 2 was here, and that was number 1. We under our cost price, we have nothing. We have a question mark. We are given a markup percentage, which is 25% on the cost price, and we are given the selling price of 3,000. We don't know our VAT, we don't know our marked price. So what are we given? That is very important. What are we given? Take note that the markup percentage is on the cost price. Know that is very important. First, what are we given? We are given the markup percentage. What else are we given? We are given the selling price of 3,000. That's what we are given. And what are we looking for? We are looking for VAT, we are looking for the cost price, and we are looking for the marked price. And which one can we start with? We can start with the VAT, no problem. We can start with the marked price, no problem. Why? Because VAT is based on the selling price. So now our VAT can be equal selling price times by 14%. Therefore now our VAT will be calculated by saying 3,000 times by 14 divided by 100. This will be 420. Then our VAT is done. We do have our VAT. Then after we say VAT plus 3,000, which is VAT plus selling price, it will give us 3,420. Then we are done with the other dimension. Don't forget that if you wanted, you could have said 3,000 of the selling price times by 1.14 to get straight to the marked price after VAT was already taken into account. So now we have to calculate our cost price. And remember, cost price is equal to 100% whenever markup percentage is on the cost price. So now our cost price will be 100%. That means we are looking for cost price which is 100%. And that cost price is 100% out of the selling price, that is 120%. So now we say cost price is equal to 100 divided by 120, times that by 3,000, because 3,000 is the selling price. And this will give us surely the amount of the cost price. 3,000 times by 100 divided by 120, this will give us 2,500 as our cost price. So now our cost price seems to be 2,500 rands. And remember, again, you could have said that cost price is equal to the selling price of 3,000. You just eliminate the markup percentage. Remember, the markup percentage was 25%, and we know that selling price is 125%. Therefore, now this could have been 125 divided by 100 is equal to 1.25. So that will mean if we just remove that 1.25 divided by 1.25, then this will give us to the original cost price. Selling price divided by 1.25, it will give us surely 2,500. Let us check that. 3,000 of the selling price divided by 1.25. Yes, it gives us the different amount, 2,400. Okay. Where did we go wrong? Okay, that means I have done the wrong calculation. It was supposed to be 125, not 120. I just thought it's the same. So now thank that I tried to prove it because I got to the correct amount. So now the cost price, sorry for that, the cost price is 2,400 rands. The cost price is 2,400 rands. Then let me just erase that 2.5. Then our cost price is 2,400. I just use 20%, yet it is 125% in this case. So now erase that. Then we have our our cost price being 2,400. That means it was supposed to be 125 here divided by 125. Let me also test that, meaning it will be 3,000 times by 100 divided by 125. Yes, that will be 2,400 rands. That will be 2,400 rands of the cost price, because we just eliminated the markup percentage of 125%. So now that will be the third transaction, or the third general entry. Then now we go to the next one. And in the next one is also very important to first note, what are you given? What is there and how can you use it? So now we are given the markup percentage, which is 40% on or off cost price. There is no selling price. There is no VAT. We are given the marked price. We are given the marked price. So now what is important for you to know is how to get to the marked price. And we know that to get to the marked price, we say selling price times that by 1.14 is equal to marked price. That I know of. Selling price times by 1.14 is equal to marked price. Or selling price plus VAT is equal to marked price. So in this case, do I know my selling price? I don't know. Do I know 1.14? Yes, I know that. Do I know my marked price? The answer is yes. My marked price is 9,576. So that means my selling price times 1.14 is equal to marked price. What am I looking for? I am looking for selling price. Therefore now we can just divide by 1.14. Then we eliminate this 1.14. Therefore now our selling price will be the net of the calculations, which will be 9,576 divided by 1.14. That will be 8,400. So my selling price is 8,400 rands. That's what I get, 8,400 rands. So now let us check if can we say we know our VAT or not. Because if we know our VAT, then it becomes easy. Can we know our VAT? Yes, we can calculate our VAT. How? By saying 9,576. 9,576 is the marked up amount that already includes VAT. They said inclusive of VAT. So VAT is already included. Therefore now to calculate VAT on a VAT inclusive amount, you say the amount times by 14 divided by 114, and this gives you 1,176. So our VAT is 1,176. Let us check. If we say 9,576 minus selling price of 8,400. If do we get the same VAT? 9,576 minus 8,400, and this gives us 1,176. At the same time, if we say selling price of 8,400, selling price of 8,400 times by 14%, because we know that VAT is 14% of the selling price, we get to the same 1,176. So either way we calculate it, we still get to the same figures. So now we do have the VAT, we do have the selling price. What are we looking for? We are looking for the cost price. We are looking for the cost price. And remember, our markup percentage was on the cost price. So now if we are looking for the cost price, that will mean cost price is equal to the selling price of 8,400 divided by 1.40. Where is 1.40 coming from? It's because we said out of 100% plus 40%, and that gave us 140%, of which 140 is 140 divided by 100, and that gave us 140 divided by 100, which is 1.4. 1.4. So now that means our cost price, remember, it is 100%, and our selling price, it is 140%. Whenever the markup percentage is on the cost price, then cost price is equal to 100%, and selling price is equal to 100% plus the markup percentage. That means our selling price is equal to 140%. That's what this means. So now we are looking for the cost price, which is 100%, out of the selling price, which is out of 140%. That is why we just divide by the decimal to eliminate or to remove. So now if we say 8,400 divided by 1.40, how much do we get? We get 6,000. 6,000 becomes the cost price. 6,000 becomes the cost price. Let me also test this, if is it correct, using a different method. Let me do the testing. Then now if we do the testing, it means we can say our cost price is equal to selling price times by 100 divided by 140, and we know that our selling price is 8,000 rands. We are looking for the cost price, which is 100%. Always whenever the markup percentage is on the cost price, we divide by the total of the percentage of the selling price, which is 140%, because we would have added 40% on that selling price. Therefore now let us check if we get to the same amount. We say 8,400 times by 100 divided by 114, and this gives us, let me check, 8,000 times by 100 divided by 140. Sorry, I said 114 previously. What am I doing? 8,000 times by 100 divided by 140. I get 5,000. What? Oh, sorry. Sorry, because I'm tired now. 8,400 times by 100 divided by 140. I'm saying 8,000 for no reasons. Then now this gives me 6,000 rands as the cost price. So now all my figures are correct. Sorry for the mistake. I think I've been explaining for a long time. Then the brain is also getting tired. So now we can prove that cost price is 6,000. And we know that the cost price of 6,000 is 100%. And the selling price of 8,400 is 140%. Please take note of that at all times. The last one, which is number 5. The last one, which is number 5. Our number 5 is number 5 is the last one, and that number 5, we are given alphabets once again. Under cost price, there is a question mark. And our markup percentage is 25% of the selling price. Remember, the minute the markup percentage is of the selling price, then we know that cost price is equal to 100 minus the markup percentage, which is 25%. Therefore, now cost price will be 75%. This is 100%. This is 25%. Every time the markup percentage is on the selling price, every time the markup percentage is on the selling price, you must always do this, where you say 100% minus 25%, and you get the percentage of the cost price. That means our cost price is 75% of the selling price. Yes, it's 75% of the selling price. That means if we get the selling price, we have to multiply it by 75% to get to our cost price. So the second question is, do we have the selling price? We don't have the selling price. Remember, selling price is equal to 100%. Whenever the markup percentage is on the selling price becomes 100%, and cost price becomes 100% minus the markup percentage. I explained that previously, even now. We don't have the selling price, we are given VAT, and we don't have the marked price. This is also a question mark. This is not zero, it's alphabet O. So now, what are we given? That is very important. We are given markup percentage. And secondly, what are we given? We are given VAT. And that's all we have. The question that you must always ask yourself is how to get to the figure that you have. That's what is important. How to get to the figure that you have. And if you know how to get to the figure that you have, then you'll know how to reverse to get to the figure that you don't have. So in this case, what do we have? We have VAT. And our VAT is equal to 840. The question is, how do we get to the VAT of 840? How do we normally calculate VAT? If you are given the marked price, if we are given the marked price, if this alphabet was given, this one, if that alphabet was given, then we know how VAT will be calculated. If marked price was given, we'll know how VAT will be calculated. So now it means if the marked up price was given, we'll say VAT is equal to MP times by 14 over 114. Why would we do this? Is because the marked up price is inclusive of VAT. That means the marked up price includes VAT. So now it means for us to calculate VAT on a VAT inclusive amount, we must multiply by 14 and divide by 114. So now the question is, do we know our VAT in this case? Yes, we know our VAT is 840. Do we know our MP marked price? We don't know. But we know that this must be multiplied by 14 over 114. The question is, how do we then go backwards? That is the complex part. So now that means we have to cancel. I'll just do this in a mathematical way and show you the simple version. That means we have to say times by, because we are looking for the marked price, we have to say times by 114 divided by 14. So that this cancel this and this cancel this. Therefore now whatever you do on the left, you must do on the right. That means we must say 840 times by 114 divided by 14. Let us check how much do we get. We say 840 times by 114 divided by 14. This gives us an amount of 6,840. So now our marked price will be 6,840. Sorry. Our marked price will be, MP will be equal to 6,840. Our marked price is 6,840. But this is very, very complicated. 6,840 rands. It was 840 times by 114 divided by 14. 6,840. Let us check if isn't there any other short way that could be a bit easier than this. I think there's supposed to be another way. Let us check for another method that we can use to calculate the amount that we don't know using the ones that we know. And once again, in this case, we are given VAT. And the question is, how is there any other way or any other method we can use to get to the VAT of 840? The answer is yes, because we know that if there was a selling price and we multiply selling price by 14%, that normally gives us the VAT. That's how you calculate VAT on a VAT exclusive amount. Remember, the previous method was calculating VAT on a VAT inclusive amount. That means assuming that we're calculating VAT from the marked price. But now, how do we calculate VAT from the selling price, not from the marked price? Then it will be selling price times by 14%. But we are looking for the selling price, not selling price times by 14%. Therefore, now we can say times by 14%, divide by 14%. Why are we doing this? Is because we want to eliminate this 14%, as we did previously with that 14 over 114, so that we get to our 840 divide by 14%. Because we divided by 14% on the left hand side or before the equal sign, therefore now we must also divide that by 14% on the right hand side, that means over the equal sign. Therefore now we'll be left with the selling price that will be equal to 840 divided by 14%. Remember, 14% is equal to 0.14 in a decimal, to make it very simple, because that is 14 over 100, and 14 over 100 is 0.14. That becomes easy when we use the decimals. So now in this case, that will mean we can just say 840 divided by 0.14, which is 14%, and this will give us our selling price. So now it's 840 divided by 0.14, and this will be 6,000 rands. What is 6,000 rands? 6,000 rands is the selling price. Okay, let us go and paste the selling price and check if our figure is correct. So now under our selling price, we see that there is 6,000, and we know that VAT is 840. So 6,000 plus 840, it will be 6,840. So surely we are 100% correct with the calculation of the marked price of 6,840 rands. So now if you say 6,000 times by 14%, this is 840 of the VAT. And if you say 6,000 of the selling price times that by 1.14, remember to add, you get 6,840. And if you say 6,000 plus 840 of VAT, we get 6,840. So our calculations are 100% correct. All the methods, they prove it to be correct. So now we are moving backwards, going to alphabet M. Alphabet M, we are looking for the cost price, and the cost price in alphabet M is what percentage? Remember, the cost price will be 75%. I did the calculations previously, but I eliminated them. I wiped them away. The cost price is equal to 100% minus marked price. Whenever the markup percentage or markup percentage, whenever the markup percentage is on the selling price, cost price will be 100% minus the markup percentage. And 100% in this case is 100% minus 25%. Therefore, now, as I said to you, this will give us 75%. This will give us 75% of the selling price. 75% of the selling price. That means if we get the selling price, we must multiply the selling price by 75% to get to the cost price. Therefore, now cost price will be equal to selling price times by 75%. That's what this simply means. Times this by 75%. Times this by 75%. So now our selling price, we know that it is an amount of 6,000 rands. There is the selling price of 6,000 rands. Then we say selling price of 6,000 rands we multiply this by 75%. This should give us the correct amount of the cost price. So now we say 6,000 of the selling price times by 75 divided by 100. Then this will give us 4,500 rands as alphabet number M. Then alphabet number M will be 4,500 rands. I have shown you guys all the ways how to calculate VAT on a VAT inclusive amount, how to calculate cost price when the markup percentage is on the cost price and on the selling price. And this is very crucial for you to understand as a student in accounting. And I hope you'll have learned something out of this, and God bless you. Thank you.